Start. Okay. Hi, Caren Norden. Welcome. Thanks a lot for finding the time to talking to me about this. We want to give some advice to applicant, potential PhD students who want to apply around the world. And you are joining us from Portugal. Is that right?
That is correct.
Want to say maybe a couple of sentences about you, what your lab does, and where do you come from, in terms of scientifically speaking?
Sure. So I'm Caren Norden. I'm since last October 2019, actually already, I'm the Deputy Director of Science at the Institute Gulbenkian in Oeiras in Portugal, which is near Lisbon. Before that, I was for 9 years a group leader at the Max Planck Institute for Cell Biology and Genetics in Dresden. This was my first position, from which I moved then to Portugal. And while I'm here, the deputy director, I of course still have a very vibrant and active group. And what we work on is the name of the group is Cell Biology of Tissue Morphogenesis. And what we mainly work on is the formation of the vertebrate eye from cells to tissue. Our main model organism is the zebrafish, but we now also put a little bit of effort into developing human and mouse organoids and try to compare processes between the zebrafish, which is an amazing organism for developmental biology, to these more in vitro models of mouse and human tissue culture. So that's in a nutshell who I am and what we do.
Brilliant. So let's start with a general question. So what do you think, what skills do you think make a good PhD students? What are the skills that you're looking for in a PhD students, and how do you think they can show those skills to you?
So even though it might sound a little bit stereotypic, I think the most important thing is curiosity and motivation. So this is what I most look for when we get the applications. When I was still in Dresden, we got these applications from PhD students. I did not care so much what they have done previously, but what are they interested in for their PhD? Why are they interested in this for their PhD? And why did they become at some point interested in my lab or in the techniques we use and things like this? And I personally believe that if you have the right attitude and the right motivation, you can learn everything within 3 months or half a year. And by that, I also don't mean that you have to do 12-hour days or something like this. We're not a lab that operates on these premises, but motivated people work as much as they have to or as much as they can to get the results that they think are exciting. And yes, curiosity I already mentioned. And I also in my lab try to hire team players, because for me that's very, very important, that people can work in a team, that people communicate with each other. And I also look for people that I can on some level connect to and can have a, not of course a friendly, but a mentoring relationship with, I mean, hopefully also a friendly, but a mentoring relationship with, that that they are people that I could also imagine hanging out with for 3 to 4 years, which is how long a PhD takes. And I think this is also very important, that also PhD students take that into consideration, that they have to, in one way or another, hang out with their mentors for 3 to 4 years in a professional environment. And that's can be a very long time for somebody who's that young.
Right, so I fully agree for what it matters, but yeah, curiosity, motivation, being a team player, these are all skills that probably an applicant will have a hard time conveying just on a CV, right? Because you cannot really easily put on the CV that you're a team player or that you're curious and motivated. So how do you think they should come about to show you that they have those skills?
I think curiosity you can convey also in a written application. I would advise against this. When I was 3 years old, I saw my first microscope and I fell in love forever. All these stereotypes, but honesty I think is always the best. And we have read so many applications that we also know if they copied it from somewhere or if this is a genuine thought. And just being honest and saying why this lab is interesting, what fascinates, and it doesn't even need to be correct, but just thinking a little bit outside the box and not repeating what the last 15 applicants might have already written or what they have read in 15 applications, but really also think about why can I imagine that for myself. I think these make the most honest application letters, and these will also be the best received. Why do you think this is an interesting topic?
Brilliant. So now, next, I want to touch a bit of a myth that I think many students have, and they might listen to what your lab does, a lot of state-of-the-art techniques, and they might think, oh, geez, she does whatever very difficult stuff, and she will never consider me because I've done very little. I have very little lab experience. Only worked with bacteria. So what about that? Do you really look into previous technical experience in a PhD applicant?
Not really. I would say if people have already used a microscope, know how a microscope works, it might be an advantage. But if they convince me in the letter or in the research statement or whatever it is with the different application systems, because as you know, every PhD program also is a little bit different. I don't care. So in my lab, most people came in. The majority of people had never seen a zebrafish. The majority of people had not had a lot of experience with microscopy. And some people even came from a dry lab background. They didn't even do experiments yet. Some people really had to learn cloning from scratch. But as I said, if you have the right motivation, I think you can learn any technique within 6 months. So I would really go by what is the lab that could make me interested and hopefully within reason happy for the next 4 years. Then what lab matches most or best the techniques that I already know, because then you also don't learn anything new. So I'm rather, I always had a lab with people from relatively different backgrounds that came together. In my lab, if you have an affinity for physics or theory, this is an advantage, but you can also learn that. You should at least not be adverse. That would be not so good, but it's also possible. So yeah, openness, open-mindedness is much, much more important than technical sufficiency in whatever technique, because most people have done a master's. This is half a year to a year, so you cannot learn many techniques in that short amount of time anyway. So I think it's really not an issue. The more different, the better.
Absolutely. Okay. Applying for a PhD position can be stressful for many students. It can be difficult, of course, especially if you apply to very good laboratories. It might be even more difficult this year with the situation in terms of pandemics, COVID. People might not be aware when is the best time to make an application. Do you have any recommendation to this year's applicants?
I have a recommendation to this year's applicants in general, but at the IGC, we have a little bit of a different PhD program that people apply not to specific labs, but they apply to the program, and then they do a 4 months to 5 month course, and only after this course they choose a lab. So this is a little bit a different setup where you apply to a program and not a specific lab. And this year for us, the time frame didn't change. The ad will come up in February and it will close in March, and then there will be interviews, and 8 to 10 PhD applicants will be chosen for the program. And then in the course of the program, they find their lab. However, in Dresden, where I was until very recently, you had 2 applications round. Now it's even a rolling application during the whole year. And the institutes that I know, I don't know how it is for you in the UK, but in continental Europe, I think things have not changed so much. So people still accept applications. There will still be PhD students chosen because science doesn't stop. Most of us are even within restrictions back in the lab. So if you want to apply this year, apply this year. The only thing is that probably most interviews will still be done via Zoom, which worked better, I think, than we have all expected. And the only caveat might be that you can only see a place after you have accepted this position, and the people who might take you in the lab only see you after you have accepted the position. So maybe one piece of advice would be to have, instead of 1 or 2 Zooms, try to have many Zooms to really get a feel for it. But that's all we can do this year. And hopefully next year it will improve again.
Okay, then a final thing, and then we close it. And I wanted to ask you, obviously at the Gulbenkian where you are, there's excellent science. It's your science that many other groups that are really on the map. What else does Lisbon offer to a PhD student?
How would I know? Because I came here and I had to shut myself in. No, but of course of course I talk to people and have experience from people. Lisbon, of course, is an amazing, vibrant capital. It's November and this is the first week that I wear 2 layers. We still have lunch in the patio. The food is amazing, and from where I sit right now, which is in my office, it's 350 meters to the beach, which is also open year long. I think, yeah, I'm very happy I came here. I unfortunately don't have as much experience yet as I wanted to have at this point because there were 2 lockdowns in between. But it's vibrant, people are incredibly friendly, food is amazing, weather is amazing. There's actually no reason, science is very good. There's not only this institute, there's 5 institutes in the Lisbon area called the Co-Life Initiative, the Champalimaud, the IMM, and 2 others. It's actually not a good reason to not come here, either to the IGC or the other 4 institutes that we are in the Co-Life Initiative. So yes, give us a call, send us an email, apply. It's a great place to do science and it's a great place to live.
I want to apply now. Okay. All right. Thank you, Caren. Thanks a lot.